Hello everyone and welcome to the latest instalment of Vitality Speaker Series. Our monthly webinar aims at financial advisors and others interested in all things wealth, health and workplace wellbeing. My name is Adam Saville, Intermediary Content Editor for Vitality. Today, we've got a very special session lined up for you as we reach the midpoint of our autumn programme. We're joined by neuroscientist and physician Dr. Julia Jones to explore how we can hack our brains. She will tell us how she went through her own experiment with her mind and body and how she used natural methods to transform her well-being. So in a moment, I'll be passing over to our host today, Pippa Andrews, Director of Corporate for Business for Vitality. But before I do that, I'd like to give you a quick heads up about what's planned for the next speaker series. Sustainability and the ESG revolution on the 11th of November. For that session, our panel of experts will include Julia Dreblow, Director of SRI, and Professor Matthew Gitson, Director of Astridge Business Centre of Sustainability. And to coincide with the UN Climate Change Conference COP26, we will investigate the driving forces behind environmental, social and governance investments for financial advisors, their clients and businesses. So make sure you register for that one and keep your eyes peeled for announcements about what's planned for the winter programme coming very soon. But now, on with today's session, I'm very pleased to welcome Pippa Andrews and Dr. Julia Jones to today's speaker series exploring how to hack your brain, the smart wellness phenomenon. Over to you, Pippa.
Thanks, Adam, and hi, everybody. I'm here to introduce Dr. Julia Jones, who has 30 years of studying neuroscience, psychology and physiology. Her qualifications are many. I won't list them all, but they range from a BA in sport and exercise and a master's in similar, onto an MBA, and then onto a PhD examining music and how it contributes to wellness, which has led to her work with the NHS and dementia projects, amongst other things. Julia continues her studies and has continued at King's College London, Harvard Medical School, where she studied nutrition and metabolic syndrome, as well as Oxford University as well around music. So a lifelong learner, Julia, very impressive. You regularly learn new songs on your guitar. I believe you're learning to play the drums and you do some DJing as well. So it'd be great to hear about that and how that contributes. You've written several books. You work directly with individuals and organizations, and I know you can be found on Twitter and YouTube, and I've watched some of your videos on YouTube, particularly the one this week around apples, sharing your top biohacks around smart wellness. So bring you in now. If you could start by opening and sharing with us what is the magic of smart wellness? What is it?
Yeah, well, thanks very much. It's always awkward when you're listening through the introduction about what you've done. 30 years, that's a long time. So I've got a list of things that I have done, but really all I've done for 30 years is be absolutely fascinated by the human brain, the most sophisticated structure in the known universe that we still kind of understand but really don't understand at all because it's so sophisticated. And astonishingly, despite the fact that it dictates every moment of our living experience, we're not really taught how it works. And I was first experienced biohacks and smart wellness 30 years ago when I was a sport and exercise undergraduate. I went on an exchange trip to Los Angeles, to the university there. While I was there, I was invited to visit a US naval base, and the PT instructors were showing me how they were using breath, music, sound, visualization techniques to improve sleep quality, control anxiety in high pressure situations, increase focus, boost motivation, self-confidence and all of this. And I was in a band at the time. I was 21, and it just absolutely fascinated me, particularly the piece around music and sound. But now, 30 years later, we still teach. I've been working with elite athletes since then, and we teach these practices to top level sports professionals, we teach these practices to the elite military, and yet it's not taught in primary schools, it's not taught in the workplace in this way. So this, I came through the sport and exercise science world in the 1990s. I believed that was going to produce a healthy population, and 5 decades of diet and fitness, huge diet and fitness trends, haven't produced healthy nations, and the science clearly shows why. So I've been driving this smart wellness topic now since 2019, when I started publishing a series of 3 books that I called my health trilogy, to try and draw attention to the fact that these simple practices around smart wellness really revolve around how your biology works, how simple habits can help that biology stay on track, and how we can use smart technology like this ring to help us monitor whether we're doing a good job at looking after those biological systems.
That's excellent. So talk to me about what are those smart tips? What are those little nudges and things that people can do, just simple tips, things people can do, biohacks, things people can do in their everyday lives?
So well, I can show you an example. We have some slides that I think your team can share for me. There you go. So the first book was The Music Diet, and it looked at sound as a biohack, because the ears don't lead to a dead end, the ears lead to the brain, and so sound and music are a phenomenally effective tool to alter what is going on in your brain with immediacy. We can release different brain chemicals, we can activate different parts of the brain, change mood very quickly. But even after that first book, I could see people were still kind of struggling to really believe the concept that music, which we've done such a great job as positioning as entertainment and fun and a commercial product, how could that possibly be a wellness tool? So the second book that came out this year, called Neuron, positioned sound as a biohack in the midst of all of the other biohacks that I use, as a whole complete 360-degree program of how to use these natural biohacks, such as temperature, cold water, breath, daylight exposure at certain times of day, timed eating at certain times of day, and put it into the kind of bigger picture. And if we go to the next slide, we should see that we won't be able to read it because it's too small, but this is the poster of habits. So my Neuron book documented a 12-month experiment that I did on myself. January the 1st, I cancelled my gym membership, and I spent a whole year just using smart wellness habits, and all of my wellness scores transformed. And this was the poster that I put on my fridge. About 20 tiny little habits that I do every day, from making my bed intentionally to doing a little bit of gratitude practice with my dog in the morning, going outside, getting the natural daylight. And these tiny things, when you look at this poster, you just think, how on earth could these things be producing such significant wellness effects? But they do, because they trigger our biology, which has evolved over many years. We are ancient creatures, and we used to live in the outdoor environment. So I've got a few examples on the next slides if we go forward. So using light as an example here, the key thing about smart wellness is that you need to understand how your biology works at a basic way, and then use a habit or some kind of hack that helps that biological system do its job, and monitor it with some kind of smart technology. So light as an example, daylight. When you realize that some of the cells at the retina, at the back of the eye, are connected to a group of neurons called the suprachiasmatic nuclei, which is a great name for a band, Pippa. I can see that guitar in the background. Maybe we should form a band. But the suprachiasmatic nuclei is responsible for inhibiting the pineal gland, which releases melatonin, which is our key sleep chemical. So those neurons are activated by natural light. So when those neurons see morning light, which has a lot of blue light in it, they know that it's morning, and a timer starts, which is an actual timer in these cells of kind of a cascade of chemicals that takes a certain amount of time, so that when those cells see the daylight in the morning, they know to release the melatonin in the evening, which then sends us to sleep. And this is an ancient system that has evolved during, you know, for most of our existence. We have been in the outdoor environment. You know, we lived in the outdoor environment. Now we've built these houses and offices and everything. We're behind windows constantly, and these cells and this circadian system, which is regulated by natural daylight, does not get the right type of light at the right type of day, which significantly impairs our sleep quality. And if we go to the next slide, I'll show you a little experiment I did in my house. So this is inside my lounge. You can see on the right hand side that I measured the power of the light in there, and I actually stood right by the window to take this reading, so 531 lux. And then I stepped outside the window on the next slide, and you can see it's 103,000 lux, because we just do not get the same power of light on inside our houses as we do outside. So when you then look at my fridge poster of habits, and one of them is, instead of letting my dog out for a wee in the morning, I now go outside with him into the garden in the morning. And that means that instead of leaving my house at 9 or whenever or in lockdown, I was not leaving my house until midday. But going outside with him while my coffee was brewing meant that the cells in my eye were activated 5-6 hours earlier than they would have been otherwise. And that, combined with making sure that I don't disrupt that by pouring blue light into my eyes at night using screens, helped me improve my sleep quality. And I knew it was improving, because this ring tells me exactly how much deep sleep I'm getting, how much REM sleep I'm getting, and you know, other wearables, lots of wearables do this now. And that is, you know, sleep is a absolute vital pillar of wellness that's often overlooked. But there are critical things that happen during sleep that, if we do not get high quality sleep throughout life, that has very, very damaging consequences through lots of chronic diseases and you know, brain disease, dementia, Alzheimer's. So even just something simple like this of embedding a daylight habit, and understanding that these cells need blue light in the morning to be activated. They must not get blue light at night. If you're using screens at night, you can use little gadgets like this, blue light blocker glasses, so that you're not disrupting those cells by giving them a message. Not using overhead lights at night. So I did an audit of my house, and in the evening I've now got dimmer switches, so low level light, and table lamps, not ceiling lamps, because a light bulb sending blue light from above is telling these cells, blue light from above, it must be morning, don't release the melatonin. So no overhead ceiling bulbs at night. All my lamps are below eye level on table lamps or floor lamps, and use dimmer switches. And if I'm using screens, I'm using this, and in night mode, and you can now get film that goes across. And if I give you one more example, if we go to the next slide, so that's the, you know, how you can use daylight. But obviously, you know, my nickname is Dr. Rock, because for 30 years I've been telling every person I meet that they're either not getting enough rock and roll in their life, or they're getting too much rock and roll in their life, and how music can be used in a myriad of ways to drive performance and wellness. And that is simply because the ears lead to the brain. And if we go to the final slide on this session, this, after all the research that I did, this is the wheel of wellness that now dictates all of the work that I do with clients, my entire personal approach to health. This is the program that I'm now delivering for corporates. Thousands of people are going through this program, which takes them through those 6 pillars. And if you look at those rings, the green circle is knowledge, because you have to learn, you know, we know more about how our phones work than how our brain works, and this is nonsense. So I'm all about the learning. So start off with that green circle, which is understand how your breathing works and how it impacts stress, understand how mindset impacts the release of brain chemicals and the speed of brain waves, understand what happens during sleep. And once you've got that green ring sorted with some basic knowledge about how your biology works, like the diagram I just showed you with the eyes, then outside of that, with the yellow ring, put in the habits, the tiny, tiny habits that help that biology work as it was intended. And then in the outer blue ring, use things like the ring or heart rate variability monitors like this, or the blue light blocker glasses, or brainwave sensors like this one, so that you can start training and getting biofeedback and neurofeedback, so you can start to really home in on these practices. And once you've done that for a little while, it becomes the new normal, and then that's it. You know, your wellness is locked in. And that's the difference between what I used to think was the route to wellness was the fitness route, and I was absolutely convinced of that until about a decade ago. And then when I started digging in deep into the science, I realized that fitness lives over here, and it's been built on elite sport, exercise science protocols. The two things we need to be concerned with are illness and wellness. You're either in illness, or if you're not in illness, then you're well. And those are the two things. It's how do you stay well and not slip into illness. And the way you do that is through tiny, tiny habits every day that over time compound to lead to a negative result with chronic illness, or a positive result, which is increased healthy life expectancy.
There's so much I could dig into there and follow up with, but let me start with, so you speak quite a lot, and it's in your books, around meditation, mindfulness, gratitude. What are the benefits of those things, if we could start there?
Yeah, so in the thinking segment of my wheel of wellness, mindset, I mean, we used to do a ton of this, still do a ton of this with elite performers. Mindset is everything. You can embed in the motor skills through repetition of a skill, of a movement, of a technique for athletic performance. But on the day, whether you're going to go home with a medal or not, it is going to be determined by whether you can get your mindset in the right place at the right time and control it. And so a lot of the mindfulness meditation, what you're doing is speeding up and slowing down brain waves. You're switching, learning to switch between salience network into central executive mode network. We're activating the prefrontal cortex for focus, switching off with through meditation, slowing brain waves so that you're switching into default mode network, different activation of the brain. So the brain is constantly switching into these different modes, and you can train yourself to be able to do that. And that is the power of these practices, which is now shown in brain scans, that the actual, you can actually see in a brain scan the difference in brain tissue and density in specific areas of someone who's practiced gratitude and meditation throughout life and someone who hasn't. It's just like training a muscle. If I'm training someone and they want to increase the size of their biceps, then I would give them a bicep curl. Or if they want to sort out their bingo wings and firm up their triceps, then you would give them some push-ups or tricep dips or something that would increase the density and activate that specific area. And meditation, mindfulness, breath work, visualization, all of that is just taking the brain through different gears. So you're speeding it up, you're slowing it down, you're shifting attention, you're training it to do what you want it to do when you want it to do it. And that has, immense impact on not just wellness, but performance. Because if you're working well and you can get into that flow state really, really quickly, then bam, that's someone who's, yeah, I've finished my work, you know, it's done. I've done all my work in super fast time. And so now I've got more leisure time to go and do something a bit less stressful.
I think there's a tendency, isn't there, to think that we only need to do meditation or some of those mindfulness techniques when we're stressed or when we're already in a state of distress, essentially. You're very much advocating, and I completely agree, that it's something you need to practice and build up. And it takes time. I know I've tried some of the breathing techniques, and you just can't pick them up and do them. You need to practice and learn how to do some of those, don't you?
Yeah. And that's the, you know, the poster I put on my fridge 7 days a week is tick, right, I've done that, tick, right, I've done that, tick, I've done that. And it, because now I don't even think about it, because I do my practice with my dog, and I do my breath work, and I do my, you know, I shut my eyes, and it's even you know, even just closing your eyes and slowing down your breathing has a significant effect on your wellness. And this is the myth that we're kind of still punting out to people, is that you have to drive to the gym and you have to go and do the workout, and you don't. And close your eyes, you know, just close your eyes, listen to some music, put some earphones in, slow your breath down, and it really is as simple as that, you know. And that's my concern of where we're going with all of this, is that we're trying to make out that you have to do these really long-winded, time-consuming things, and you don't. And I'll give you a classic example of this. My sister goes, well, before COVID, she used to go swimming. She's got a high-level job, time poor. She was going to the gym after work, doing the swimming, you know, 3 times a week, blah, blah, blah. Now, she has not done that for a year and a half. So she's been doing the breathing with me, and she's been doing the walking, going outside, walking in the natural environment, where we're meant to be, you know. Last night was the first time in a year and a half that she'd gone back to do her swimming training, and she was expecting it to be really hard because she hasn't done it for a year and a half. No, it was easier than it was when she did exactly the same amount of lengths, because she's just been staying well through breath work and going for a walk, you know, exactly the same amount of wellness, because she's not training for a competition, so she doesn't need to you know, significantly increase cardiovascular capacity and aerobic capacity, and she was just doing it for wellness and you know, weight purposes and stress reduction. So, but that was taking 2 hours out of her day after work of trying to fit that in. So this is the message that we need to get out, is that if you enjoy going to the gym, then great, but you need to think about, right, what is it actually doing? When should I do it so that it gives a positive effect, not a negative effect? Because
I know a lot of people go in the evening after work, right? They leave work, they go to the gym. Is that a good time to go to the gym?
Right. So going back to what I was saying about the daylight, and what you're going to the gym, so we know that you should not be having blue light in the evening because that disrupts sleep quality. But you're finishing work late, 6, whatever, you go to the gym, it's 7, 8 o'clock at night, later sometimes with some people. Loud music, activating the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight response, bright lights, screens, like everything that you should not be giving your brain, you're giving your brain. Then you're late going home by the time you had a shower, so now you're late eating, so you're having a late dinner, which is further disrupting your sleep quality and impacting your ability to metabolize glucose the next day. So your brain, you're sleep deprived, your metabolic function is impaired, so you're now making bad choices the next day, which is further compounding. You know, all this science is absolutely out there. It's been out there for years in the journals, but it hasn't drifted across into mainstream. And that's, you know, there is a communication problem right now, which is why what I'm trying to achieve with these books and the work that I'm doing is that, look, you know, it's actually quite simple to stay well. It's target your addictions. It mainly starts with the food. You know, we are in an environment,
nutrition, and the gut and how that all works. I know you've done pieces on that.
Yeah, so I did a gut test as part of my year-long experiment, and that showed me that, well, it showed me some things that I already knew. So I shouldn't be drinking alcohol every night of the week. I should just be drinking it at weekends as my treat, which a change I did. The gut test showed me that I should not be having dairy.
Okay.
Which was interesting because I never thought that I had any problem with dairy at all. But then once I stopped having that, I had eczema in my ears that it started when I did a life-saving course in my 20s, and I would just been repeat prescription of steroids for like 20 odd years. I stopped having dairy, that disappeared like that, right? So these intolerances, so this precision nutrition is not just around kind of inflammatory reactions like that, but we now know that our gut bacteria and our gut microbiome dictate everything from our mood, the quality of our sleep, our immune function, the ability to respond to cancer treatments. It's now all being focused back into the gut microbiome. And fruit and vegetables are the way to feed that bacteria, in particular because of the fiber, but we need a huge diversity. And I'm at the moment I'm actually struggling to find the best way to help people get enough diversity, because you need 25 to 30 different types of fruits and vegetables a week. Now I get a farm shop delivery, and even in the biggest box that I get, there's like 13 different varieties of things in there, which is way short of what I need. And with the supermarkets as well, it's not quite set up like that. So at the moment we're running an experiment here at my smart wellness laboratory. We've got a group of people that I'm trying to reverse their biological age through smart wellness habits, but also by doing a gut test and then trying to help them achieve this precision eating, to say, right, you need to eat apples, you need to eat bananas, you need to eat pears, because we respond differently based on the makeup of our gut microbiome. And this absolutely will be the future of health. Everyone will do a gut test because it'll eventually become cheap enough for everyone to just be doing gut health tests as a normal part of our life. You then use those results to fill up your shopping basket, and that's what you eat. And that's what we're working on at the moment.
And is it, because it's very tempting when you walk around supermarkets, seeing the way things are packaged, and I think obviously the supermarkets are trying to get you attracted to certain products. And I know obviously we've got a type with online shopping with Waitrose, and I know a lot of people will have done online shopping as a result of lockdown and maybe thinking, do I go back to the supermarket? Do I keep with my online shopping? What's your top tips there?
So all of my clients, I ban them from the supermarket environment.
Okay.
I did that with myself. I was a speaker at the Neuromarketing World Forum that was meant to be in Los Angeles, but I didn't get that trip. It was on Zoom thanks to COVID. But neuromarketing is a real thing. Millions and millions and millions of pounds are spent on using brain science to figure out how to trigger our reward pathways. Dopamine in the brain is very powerful, very addictive, influences our decisions. And the whole supermarket environment and the food and drink that is in that environment uses that science to influence your decisions. And so the best way to start hacking your health and your waistline is by setting up a home delivery, so that you never have to go into the supermarket environment. Because why would you, when you know that it's purposefully trying to influence your decisions? And it's so difficult to understand the labeling. Things that say they're healthy are not healthy. And it's right now it's very difficult for the average person. Even I find it. I've got a massive wealth of experience in this kind of field, and still I'm baffled by some of the packaging, and I'm having to look, and it's like, oh no, this is actually full of sugar, or
Right.
whoa, this has got a high salt content, or this is, you know, it's very, very misleading. And so the best way is to pack your online shopping basket jam packed full of fruits and vegetables, which are all delicious and brightly coloured, and try and go into the supermarket as infrequently as possible. And when I actually started properly practicing intermittent fasting as part of my experiment, and I now also really highly endorse this. I don't do it every day of the week, but I try to do it sort of weekdays, 3 or 4 days in the week, of just having a later breakfast and an earlier dinner, so I'm eating within an 8-hour window. And I have not been this weight and since my 20s. You know, I dropped weight. I wasn't even trying to lose weight as part of my experiment, but it just happened. And I can remember one night I was watching TV and kind of like, you know, sitting like this, and I could feel this hard thing. I was like, oh my God, I've got a lump, I've got a lump, I've got a lump. It's like, no, it was my jawline, Pippa. It was my actual jawbone, because I hadn't felt it for decades, and it was like, oh my God, what's that? Is it my gland? I was like, what? No, it was my jawline. It's like, wow,
that's a nice surprise. Yeah,
fascinating, right? But that's from, you know, changing what I was eating and changing the time of day that I was eating it. And because we were not designed to be eating so regularly and eating so much processed food. It's hugely unnatural for our gut bacteria, and it leads to damaging consequences.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot about being far more conscious about what you're doing, when you're doing it, thinking about it. I think there are more top tips I can pull out of you. So we've got, if you're going to go to the gym, maybe go in the morning, walk to the gym, get the daylight, walk to the gym. Some people enjoy going to the gym and burning some calories, and working out to music, maybe going out and putting your headphones in and going for a walk with music, and how that links to how people feel about the workout, I think, and certainly for me makes it more enjoyable. So we've got online shopping, we've got thinking more about your diet and maybe intermittent fasting. And I know if we talk about the sort of parasympathetic system and the autonomic nervous system, can you tell us a little bit more around the science behind some of those things in as simple way as you can? Because we haven't all studied as you have.
Yeah. So when I'm teaching, you know, my elite sports performers, or you know, coaching them through these principles for focus, or any person who's got a job, you know, there are ways of very, very quickly focusing your brain. And what is important to remember about the autonomic nervous system is that it is designed to keep us alive. And back in the day, we would be, you know, mainly in parasympathetic nervous system dominance, rest, digest, repair, except when there was an emergency and we needed to, bam, the autonomic nervous system goes into sympathetic response, which is fight or flight, right? It's like, or freeze. It's like, what the heck? Something's happening, bam,
get running.
That is this, you know, the heart rate increases, circulation increases, glucose to the muscles, we need fast response. Now our lifestyle constantly pushes us slightly into sympathetic nervous system mode. So we're every time you do that, there's a release of stress chemicals, and which are damaging over time. So it's really important that we remember that we try and keep our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, in that parasympathetic nervous system mode. And there are various ways of doing that, and it helps with focus, it helps with stress, it helps with metabolism, everything. And the easiest way to do it is through breath, because the main nerve of the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system is the vagus nerve. So 10th cranial nerve is wired into the heart rate. When we breathe in, our heart rate goes up, and when we breathe out, our vagus nerve slows down the heart rate, and then lets the heart rate, so we breathe in, the heart rate goes up, we breathe out, the heart rate goes down. Every breath, right, that happens. It helps increase efficiency of getting oxygen and gas exchange and everything else. It's a highly sophisticated system. But it means that because we can consciously step in and control our breathing, just by extending our exhales, we can increase that parasympathetic response, because we're engaging the vagus nerve for longer. And so that is training that response, that keeping us in parasympathetic mode. So 4-6 ratio breathing, for instance, breathing in through your nose, always through your nose for a count of 4, breathing out for longer than 4. So breathing out for a count of 6 or 7 or 8, or just trying to extend that exhale. So you breathe out slower than you breathe in, so that the air lasts longer, so you can breathe out. And all the time that you're exhaling, you're activating that parasympathetic nervous system, vagus nerve. And that's a really easy thing. I do it all over the place. When I'm in a traffic jam, I'm doing 4-6 breathing, extending my exhales, slowing it down. If before I'm doing a presentation or whatever, a bit of 4-6 breathing, slow it down. And we've just launched a collaboration that I've done with Hot House Music at Abbey Road Studios, creating a soundscape to help people time this response. So 4 beats, breathe in for 4, and then music 6 beats, because normally music's 4-4. So this soundscape is 4-6, and that combined with the just listening to sounds that help you extend that exhale can really increase that parasympathetic nervous system response, and just help you become a more calm person. And if you need this in an emergency, if there's, if you're in a high stress situation, about to go into a big meeting or whatever, then the immediate way to try and flick this switch and engage this relaxation mode is to do a physiological sigh, which was first identified in sort of mice and rats. But if you breathe in twice and breathe out slowly, then there is a very rapid reset of that autonomic nervous system. So you breathe in, and then again, and then
a long breathe out,
and that double inhale. So the inhale followed by the extra snuff in of extra air fully expands the air sacs in your lungs, so that you get the maximum exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. And then the extended exhale engages the vagus nerve to get back into parasympathetic mode. And that, that's an easy tool that people can just use in a couple of seconds to reset their chemistry
without anyone even noticing, right? It's something we do at our desks.
Exactly. I do it all the time, and these little tools are, they're taught to the elite military in high pressure situations, because they're little tricks and little biohacks that hack into our biology. And this sort of smart wellness approach is so easy that I really want everyone to know these little things, because it's seriously like it's transformational once you embed it into your daily routine.
Listen, Julia, I've got lots of questions coming in, and I would remind everybody, if you have a question, to pop it on the question chat function there. If you're happy, I'll start with some of the questions, because I'd like to get through a good deal of them, if that's all right. So okay, if someone has a pair of blue light glasses, it's been asked, are they a placebo, or do they truly help bringing sleep? I think you've sort of spoken to that briefly, but could you explain a little bit around the science behind that?
They definitely do. Well, I mean, I can't speak for every brand, because I don't know how, there might be ones out there that are saying they do and they don't. So but if you have a reputable brand that has some some science around it, then they do. And if you look at the way that the spectrum of light changes through the day, in the morning light has got a lot of blue light in it. Sunset light has got much less blue light in it and more red light in it.
Yeah.
So you know, that if you don't want to wear the glasses, you can now get film that goes across the screen, so you can actually put it across screens. I saw someone
some
said,
laptops even have a mode, don't they? You can switch down the blue light in the evening.
Yeah, and dimming it down, and also, you know, I mean, screens at night, aside from the sleep impact, it's real, you know, it's straining our eyes hugely. We would not normally be looking at each other on a big, you know, you're on a big screen here in front of me. I would not normally be seeing a huge human face this close, this big, unless we were in conflict situation or mating. You know, I mean, this is that's how the brain is like, whoa, it's abnormal. And also our eyes are focused constantly. We're not blinking as much, so our eyes get drier, and it's eye strain.
No, so a follow-up question to that around the blue light. Are the Kindles and the e-readers, do they have the same blue light, or if they are using a different technology but it's not so bad? Because a lot of people read at night to go to sleep. I know I do. Yes.
Now, I haven't got one, so I don't know the answer to that. But they have, if it's something that has a night mode, because most of the main manufacturers now, and you know, I mean, Amazon is, you know, the Goliath. They know that all this science is absolutely proven, and so I'm assuming that, I haven't tested it, but I'm assuming that all the big players now have embedded this properly in, because none of them want to be responsible for down the line. You know, the reality of decades of sleep is Alzheimer's, dementia is all linked to this lack of deep sleep and restorative sleep. So none of them want to be responsible for future disasters, and so I'm assuming that what they've done does actually do what it says it does.
And you can turn down the brightness. I know I've got one. If I move on to gut biomes, then a couple of questions around that. So do you recommend particularly a vegan diet, or is a vegan diet particularly helpful for gut biomes? And do you recommend any gut biome test providers, and how do you know that they're of a reputable quality standard?
So, well, with the vegan thing, I'm not vegan, but I eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, and I don't eat dairy. And so if you are vegan, the key is to eat a lot of fruit and dairy. I know I've got a lot of friends who are vegan, and they're eating processed food that is vegan. Now that is not good. That is not good for you, right? And the key is, you know, we need to be smart about this. We know that we need lots of fruits and vegetables, because that also delivers a lot of water, and it also delivers a lot of fiber. So we need a lot of diverse fruits and vegetables, and we need proteins. And you know, so it's about, how do you get the right macronutrients, whether you're a carnivore or a vegetarian or a vegan or whatever, is kind of irrelevant, to be honest. You just need to make sure that you're getting enough of the healthy foods and cutting the ultra processed and processed foods out of your diet as treats. And and you have to have an honest conversation with yourself. You know, right at the beginning of my experiment, I sat down, like, right, I cannot have alcohol in the house in the week, because I probably will have a glass of wine while I'm cooking, because that's the habit that I had developed. So I cannot have wine in the house in the week. I go and buy it on Friday as my exciting treat, and I count down the days, Pippa, to Friday. And the same with biscuits and crisps and chocolate. I cannot have any of that in the house. And so all of that is it, because I've got, you know, I have vegan friends, they're eating very unhealthily.
And how about drinks? While you're intermittent fasting, what are you drinking? Is a question from Amanda. Are you drinking water? Are you drinking teas and coffees? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, so in the morning I am drinking coffee, which is my absolute, I savor my coffee. One of my on that list of habits was I have a very expensive brand of coffee beans that I own, that I treat myself to. The first cup in the morning is this incredible cup, and I grind the beans and I smell I don't just drink the coffee, I savor the coffee, Pippa. And that's so coffee in the morning, just with a dash of milk or butter. Sometimes I put a tiny bit of butter in it, which increases that fullness. It's a bit of healthy fat that there's a lot of stuff now around bulletproof coffee as well, which is the same principle. So putting a touch of butter in your coffee. Which when you first taste it, it's like, whoa, that's just weird, but actually it's really nice once you get into it. Tea again, water, and yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's very easy once you, it's habit again. You know, why are we who's told us that we have to have breakfast as soon as our eyes open? You know, that was something that just became a thing. Cereal manufacturers, a lot of marketing around the it's a ridiculous habit that actually doesn't do us any favors. So that, and then further into the day, you know, if I have you think about your lifestyle. So I'm not rigid about this. If I'm going out for dinner or something, I know I'm going out for dinner, I'm going to be eating late, 8, 9 o'clock. And I still want to maintain my 8-hour eating window, to maintain that 16-hour fast, then I'll have breakfast at 1 p.m. You know, you can shift it around, and it really isn't difficult once you get into it. Because I used to think, oh my God, I'll be faint if I don't have breakfast and don't. But no, because we didn't used to wake up in our ancient life and go, oh, I'll just go to the fridge and get a you know, we didn't have the availability of food readily like that.
Sure. Okay, thank you. I'm just going to come back to the gut test question, because I've got a lot of people have asked about that.
I didn't answer
any reputable places to get that done? Yeah.
So I really there is a huge amount of stuff happening in this space now, massive. It's very sophisticated. It's come out of genetic science, so that this, you know, what we now know about the microbiome was kind of stumbled upon because while we were analysing our human genes, that same technology started to pick up the genes of the bacteria, and then it was like, whoa, who are all these people that live inside us? It's like, what? And so we now know that we're a hotel, you know, for all of these bacteria that have their own lives going on, and they need their own food and things like that. So the leaders in this space are using those sophisticated genetic analysis tools to give very detailed data about what you should, well, what bacteria you've got. Is it a good neighborhood, or a good safe neighborhood, or is it a bad neighborhood that's dangerous with a lot of bad bacteria causing disruption and rioting and everything else? And how do you send in the gut police and get rid of the bacteria, bad bacteria, and feed the good bacteria so that they can survive in that environment? So Viome is one that's US based, but they've got a very good app that I like, and it's very easy to understand what foods to eat and what foods to avoid. Atlas Biomed in the UK, I also use. They give, again, very detailed food recommendations and help you boost diversity. And I've actually on Monday we're launching our gut test. We've partnered with a lab in England to produce a simplistic gut test, because what I found with the people that I was coaching through this is that you get a 90-page report with these gut tests, which is just too overwhelming. It's really interesting to see what these thousands of bacteria are doing. It's just too much, and people don't take action then because it's just too much information, overwhelm. So the gut health test that we're launching is just one score. So you get a score out of 10 to say, look, this is the basic situation. You're a 5. let's figure out how to get you to a 7, 8, 9 by just increasing the amount of fruits and vegetables you're eating, the time you're eating it, the diversity of what you're eating, and then start with that, because that will have a huge impact, just that alone. And it's interesting to see how, you know, how well your gut is performing in terms of being able to convert the food that you're giving it into short chain fatty acids, which is key to our you know, metabolic function.
Yeah, I definitely need to have more myself personally. I can relate to that. Listen, it would also be remiss not to ask the music questions as well. I need to come back to music. So tell us a little bit more about how music, what you've learned about music, how that interacts with your health and well-being more broadly.
Yep. So when the brain receives sound, there are a number of responses. It's an amazing neuromodulation tool. So if you're trying to change mood, or if you're trying to engage the parasympathetic response or entrainment, so that the brain tends to entrain, it matches the rhythms that it receives. So that if you're trying to slow down brain waves, then slow, relaxing music helps achieve that. And if you're trying to speed up brain waves to get into action mode, then high intensity music and fast tempo music helps that. And that's the, you know, research I did in the 90s with Kostas Karageorgis, and it was published in the Journal of Sport and Exercise Sciences, about how if you coordinate your movement with the beat of the music, then you can exercise for longer. And of course, what we now know, and what I'm now looking at, is like, well, actually, you don't need to do it. Does do that, but you don't actually need to do that for wellness. You need to do it for fitness,
right?
But not for wellness. And the other thing about music is that, you know, if you give your brain music, you can adjust the release of dopamine, serotonin, reduce cortisol, because you can time your breathing, everything else. But in addition, one of the things that we haven't mentioned on the wheel of wellness is the maintaining segment, and that is about how do we, so we know how, if we keep moving and standing up regularly throughout the day, so part of my hack was cancel the gym membership but buy a stand-up desk, and just start parking at the far end of the car park instead of right outside the office door.
Move more,
you know, I open my curtains now from the top instead of at the bottom, so every morning my arms are above my head, and you know, just simple things like that. And with the maintaining segments, like, well, we know how to maintain bone tissue, muscle tissue, everything else, but how do we maintain brain tissue? Because we know that we've got a huge dementia problem, and dementia starts decades before any symptoms are apparent. So us in our working life right now could be on the route to dementia already, and we wouldn't know it. So how do we ensure that we're building neuroplasticity throughout life, building cognitive reserve by building brain tissue and brain connections? And music and learning a musical instrument, which is why you need to learn that guitar on the wall behind you, Pippa, it's scientifically proven to be the best way of building brain connections quickly, because it's so complex. There's a reason that everyone doesn't immediately play a musical instrument, because there's a period of frustration where people usually give up. And when you're frustrated because your brain is having to listen to the sound, it's having to convert that, it's having to then figure out timing, then activate the motor cortex to do precision changes of the hands, and it's a lot. It's the most complicated juggling act that you can give your brain. But it's when you're frustrated, that is when the new neural pathways are being built. Once it's simple, you've built those pathways. And so putting yourselves in novel tasks, like you say, you know, I'm learning the drums because I can play the guitar, I can play a bit of the piano, but I can't play the drums. So I'm now using that as my novel learning task, and that is something that we should be doing throughout our entire life.
Yeah, continuous learning. Love it. Thank you. I'm going to go to loads of questions again. I'm going to come to some hopefully quick fire ones. So someone said, can you just repeat the name of the gut test? I think I heard Atlas.
Atlas Biomed.
Yeah.
and Viome, Viome.
Thank you. And any recommendations for a tool for the meditation stroke breath work? Obviously, we have some that are linked to the Vitality program, but any specifically on the breath?
No, the specific thing to remember about the breath is that exhaling is really important. And I do a weekly breathing class now that I've just started, 30 minutes on a Tuesday online, called Exhale, to kind of hammer home that message of it's about breathing out. So literally could put any music on, slow enough to breathe out.
For how long? 30 minutes? Does it if you've got 10 minutes, is that helpful?
No, like 2 minutes, like 3 minutes,
2 minutes, literally.
2 minutes, 3 minutes. The key is to do it every day. That's or multiple times a day, rather than making it a big hassle. You know, just fit it in when you're washing the dishes.
Yeah, no. I've had questions about your smart ring. Where's the smart ring from? What's the smart ring?
Yeah, so this has got sensors inside it that measure my body temperature, my stress level, my sleep quality, my activity level, my breathing rate. It's a company that I'm working with called Oura, O-U-R-A. And what I really like about this, because there are also, you know, I have other watches that do a lot of this information as well, but a watch was just, I've already got a watch, I don't need another watch, and it's something else to charge every night. You have to charge it. Well, you can't charge it at night because then it doesn't give you sleep information. So this only needs to be charged once a week. So this, you know, this is superb. It's very accurate as well.
Great, thank you. So one last question then, Julie, if I may. We've all been recently understanding the research and have been shown research around lifespan and health span, and how important it is not just to increase your lifespan, but to stay well in that life, and how to remain healthier for longer, given that we can expect to generally live longer than in previous years. How is smart wellness a route to achieving that longer, healthier life?
So it's fully embedded in longevity science. So all the longevity scientists are using these smart wellness habits, and that's and in fact in the last chapter of my book, have I told you about my book?
You have, Julia. It's very good.
Here it is again. Here it is again. Part of my health trilogy, everybody. Auto tune's out next year, but this one's out now. But the last chapter, I actually talk about the future of longevity science and what the, you know, people like David Sinclair and Tim Spector and what they're doing in their daily practices to kind of maintain mitochondria and brain plasticity and everything else. These little habits are what the leaders in the longevity science field are doing themselves.
Yeah, and I think our research fully backs up a lot of what you've been saying today, and we've got a tool available. I don't know if the team can just quickly whiz me the address of the tool, so people can go on and fill in a few questions about themselves, and it'll give them some top tips on how they can live not just longer but healthier. Longer lives.
Absolutely. Well. Yeah, we do a longevity test. I do a glycan age test that shows people what their biological age is. Brilliant. And then we show them how to use smart wellness to reverse that biological age sometimes you can get younger than your actual chronological age. And something that we haven't mentioned, given the audience, is you know, financial health, a big contributor when it comes to stress levels. You know, it cannot be underestimated how much your financial health influences your or how you perceive your financial health, how much that influences stress levels and therefore your general wellness.
I think there's a lot about, again, I just come back to a lot of what you said is about being conscious of the decisions and choices that you're making and your mindset about how you view those things. So I think those are the critical nuggets that I've definitely taken away. Listen, thank you very much, Dr. Julia, Dr. Rock, which is your nickname. It's been really interesting. Sadly, I haven't got through all the questions that we've had. We've had a really engaged audience, but we'll try and follow up with some of those. But it's been really great talking to you. I could talk to you all day. Thank you very much. I'll close it there if that's okay.
Great. Thanks very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.